Randomization in Wotja is hugely significant as it makes it fast and easy to come up with mixes or melody ideas. This tutorial aims to explain more about Wotja's powerful mix randomization capabilities and, via various mix randomization settings, how you can control how randomization works with templates. We will cover cut-up related randomization in other tutorials, as well as content cells and how mixes are arranged. From the templates tutorial, you will have seen that Wotja includes a large number of templates and learned how to access and use the templates screen. Mix randomization settings let you customize how content cells are populated with templates, how text-to-music (TTM) voices are configured with text, how a mix is arranged with respect to tracked volumes and pans, mix tempo, and how content cells should loop. Mix randomization settings can be reached from the settings icon, either when in this file screen, from settings, random, or when in a mix from the icon in the settings tab at the bottom. These settings are used when creating a new random mix, or when in a mix you randomize the mix, a column, track or cell. Because it's easier to show this all in a mix, we will first create a random mix and then do further randomizations whilst in that mix. Okay. As much of randomization relates to the mix, we're going to have it in expanded view. So that is collapsed, that's expanded view, and on the left we can see all the cells in the mix. Let's look at the randomization settings and see what some of them do, and we will look at a few at each time. If you want to know more details about this screen, see the user guide. Okay, we'll stop that. The first thing to know is how to set these back to the default settings, and if we scroll down to the bottom, that's here, reset all randomization settings. Let's now use these default randomization settings to randomize our existing mix. So if we go into the mix tab and then select the randomization button at the top, let's select randomize mix automatic, and what you will see is every time we do that we will create a different random mix. Now, what we want to look at is the text to music first of all, and we'll see that we have in cell 1, column 1, 2 text words, and then so forth. So we have basically track 1 contains the text to music players. If we go into the randomization settings, the first first four values are related to the text to music players. So the top one, cells per column min and cells per column max, basically just define how many text to music players you want in your mix when it's randomized. So if we were to set that, say, to 2, that means we'll always have 2 text to music players when we randomize. We could obviously have a range on that too, so it's between 2 and 4, but I think we're just going to stick with 2. The number of words are the number of words used or created at random for the player to then generate its melodies. So we have 2 minimum, let's just make that, say, 13. If we now go back to the mix and we randomize, what we will see, hopefully, is 2 text to music voices. We can tell that from this cell here, and if we look at how many words there are, this one has 6, and if we go here, this one has a lot more. We can also randomize from within this screen using this button here, and what you do is if you select random words, it will use the randomization settings to generate those, or if you just shuffle text, it'll shuffle up the letters, or if you have shuffle words, it will shuffle those words around. Okay, so it's pretty much just text there. So the next thing to notice, if we go to the mix panel, is that we have volumes and pans set for this mix. Say we wanted to generate this mix using different volumes and pans. We go into random and we go into this group of settings here. So we can first of all also say set the tempo to between 30 and 47. The volume min and volume max are the track volumes. If we want a wide range of volumes, we'd set that to 0, so it's between 0 and 127. The pan setting is how much away from the center position will it generate a random value. If we set that to 0, it means they would all be center value. So if we now randomize this mix, we should see that all the pan settings are at 64 and the volumes vary. Okay, next we can see that we have basically 3 tracks with templates in each of 4 columns. To change the number of cells that are populated, we go into random. First of all, we're going to reset the randomization settings, and then we go to the parameters called tracks and cells. Tracks sets the number of tracks that contain content. Let's say we want to make that 5, and it's best to have less. Less is more when it comes to mixing things. And say we wanted only 2 of the columns to contain cells. If we now go back to the mix and we randomize, we'll see basically that we now have 5 tracks and we have 2 columns of cells, each one with a cell populated. We can thin that out by saying number of blank cells. If we say we make that 43%, if we go back to our mix and randomize again, we'll see that not all cells are populated. Okay, now the next thing to look at is the cell arrangement. So we're not going to cover that in this tutorial here, how it actually works, but we have values along the right for generative bars and the range bars, and number of times a cell will repeat and the range of repeats. So if we go back into settings, random, and I'm going to reset all back to default. Okay, so we've got these all back at default. If we now look at the cells settings, these say generative bars min and max. That means that it'll be between 8 or 16 as the base level. Then there's a range on top, and we can set the number of cell repeats and ranges likewise. So if we were to set that to 3, actually this is a very good point. The infinite symbol means that generative content won't play for a certain number of bars, it will just continue playing. So that means when you have a track that's set up as a sequence track or any kind of track setting, which we cover later, it will just continue to play. It won't move to the next cell. And we could set the number of bars to repeat, sorry, the number of repeats of the cell. So if we go back into settings and we were to press randomize now, what we should see is, yes, we've gone all back to the defaults, but we'll notice that in the far left hand column they all show an infinite symbol. If we play, we'll notice these all show infinite. That means that that cell will just continue playing forever, or within the playtime limit for the app. Right, what we want to do now is one final thing. I want to quickly go through the options, or some of the options in here. So we've done mix automatic, sticky cell randomization. If we select that, you'll notice that the dice button goes a fuchsia color, and it means that whenever we touch a cell it will randomize. So let's just collapse this a bit. If we touch that cell will randomize, and it randomizes according to it chooses a template at random according to the mix randomization settings. We can turn it off by pressing that again. The randomize column and randomize column all settings are slightly different. Randomize column will randomize every cell that is in the column that has content in according to the randomization settings. So if you were to, For example, say we selected this cell and we select clear, so we're going to clear that cell. That's sticky behavior 2. If we now randomize column, we'll only see the top and the bottom cell being randomized. And of course we have to see that, make it easy to see by doing that. If we randomize column all, it will randomize every cell that it can according to in that column according to the randomization settings. So that will mean 3 columns. And the same principle applies to tracks. The final thing to note is that if you go into the randomization button, you'll notice there's a randomization settings at the bottom, and you can access those settings from there as well. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this Wotja tutorial and you enjoy using Wotja, and we'll now play out.